What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Absolute Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hunt, back with another episode, and today we have Frank Jasper, a.k.a. Shute from Vision Quest. For any of you who have not watched the movie Vision Quest, you're missing out. It's a 80s movie about wrestling. If you ever wrestled, you've undoubtedly have seen it. It's pretty much a classic within the wrestling community. It's kind of a cult classic just in general. Awesome movie. The character Brian Shute is really, from the moment I watched the movie, which I think maybe the first time I saw it was middle school, the Shute character was pretty much what I wanted to be. Just a complete badass, jacked out of his mind, state champion, just this dominating figure. To think that here we are, and now we're having a conversation on the podcast. Really cool. And the thing is, what's cool about it is you have the wrestling element, but you also have the general fitness element, because Frank's a guy that's been around in fitness and used to bodybuild and is still into health and nutrition and things like that. So we had a lot of elements, a lot of things to talk about. Felt like I could have talked to the guy all day long. Really cool episode. You're going to love it. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Frank Jasper. Frank, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Thanks for jumping on the podcast here.
All right, man. Good to see you live and in person.
I know it kind of makes it seem like we're on the opposite ends of the country here, but it makes it seem like we're just sitting down chatting.
Sitting down, just talking, shooting. You know what? I guess you can't say that on the podcast.
Oh, you can say that. You can say whatever you want.
Okay. Just wasn't sure what our situation was as far as words, cuss words.
Oh, you can say whatever you want. We're shooting the shit.
All right.
After we got off the phone the other night, I was like, man, I gotta watch Vision Quest. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had to go back and watch it.
Quote unquote younger, because you still look pretty young to me.
Yeah, I'm 26. I'm trying to think when the first time I saw that movie was. I don't know. I was probably, I have to guess, probably in middle school.
So I was 26 when I shot the movie.
That's how old you were? Okay.
Yeah.
Shit. So see, man, if they came out with a Vision Quest 2, I could still, and I look really young. I could play a high school kid.
I think you look a lot like Brian Shute.
I know. That would be like a dream.
We got to do it. I keep telling you.
I see
a lot of people saying let's get VQ out there, VQ2, the sequel, or redo it. And I'm all for it. It's like, it needs to be updated. I mean, the wrestling has changed dramatically over the course of like 30, 35 years. So it's really made some incredible jumps. And so still, I have watched the last 2 years of NCAAs and they've been thrilling. I mean, right to the last second, man. I mean, it's like guys that think they're going to get their fourth win are getting knocked out. Gabe Dean got knocked out last year. Like, damn, that was sweet.
It was the 141 match in the finals was awesome. I'm from upstate New York, so Yanni from Cornell, he wrestled Bryce Meredith. I actually had Bryce Meredith on the podcast, but that matchup was epic, and I was kind of rooting for Yanni because I'm from only about a half an hour from Cornell.
Mm-hmm. Did you remember the Bo Nichols match?
Oh, yeah.
Sealed the deal, being thrown to his back and flips the guy over. That was insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. So did you grew up wrestling?
I wrestled in high school at Coeur d'Alene High School in Idaho.
Okay.
I wrestled there for 3 years, then went away and worked as an iron worker, and then trained with the team in Pasco, Washington, the college team for 3 months. So I got some roll in with the guys there before I actually went back to school in Eastern Washington and became an athletic trainer there.
Cool. And that's how you got familiarized with Vision Quest and that they were looking for extras or something. Is that what the story was?
Exactly. I'm just watching. I was the athletic trainer for the wrestling team that semester. And one of the extras that was in the movie already came in that was wrestling at Eastern, but decided to take that semester off because they were paying them, $90 a day just to roll around, and it was a 3 or 4 month gig. And so he was talking that, hey, they're shooting this movie and my gosh, they're still looking for somebody that can wrestle, has a muscular build, 6 foot tall. And he looks at me and says, that's you. You got to do this. You got to go in.
Yeah. So what was the process like?
It was pretty crazy. It was like over the course of 5 different interviews, and I had to read the part, which, okay, he never told me there were lines. I agreed to I'll go in and be like a wrestler in the background and see how movies get made, and I'll get paid because I'm looking to make, put money towards my tuition. And I walked in there, casting director hands me the side, goes, look these over, we'll read them through in a couple minutes. I was blown away. I probably would not have gone in had I known that there was going to be lines.
Yeah, because you had no acting background whatsoever, right?
Nothing, man. I was just like, oh, I can wrestle. I can do that. So now let's do this. But then I had to go wrestle for the coach and had to do a scene for the director. And it was the craziest thing. I did the scene with the casting director and I made a mistake, and I kind of laughed because I was nervous. And she looked at me. She says, we're looking for intensity here. If you make a mistake, go on as if nothing happened. Got it?
Uh-huh.
Like, oh, these guys are serious. So I said, got it. And I read the lines. She goes, okay, let's go see the director. We go around into the director's office. He goes, you know the lines, and he takes the sides out of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed him. It was like, okay, I know the lines, I guess.
Yeah.
They're like, prolific, but it is a lot of, if you're not thinking about it, you've never done this before. And then you just read them with, somebody twice. And then you go there and he says, you know them. So I somehow got through it. I don't know how I did, but it just happened. And then I went and wrestled, and the coach signed me off on the wrestling. Then I came back. I had to shave my mustache because I had a mustache and like a 1970s, Chips mustache.
Yeah.
In days, I had the glasses that had shaded, the dark and then went light at the bottom. I thought it was cool.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so after that, then I had to come back and read for the producers that were flying up from California, and they brought an actor with them that they liked. And my director liked me because he's seen me go through these stages. So it was like a competition. So I had to go in and read for the producers. And then we went over to the set. And that's where the coach was that was signing people off on the wrestling. And Coach Stoney, the guy that took care of it, was actually the referee in the final bout.
Yeah.
He played the referee. He was the coach, and he took care of all the wrestling, and he had to sign off on this guy. So they had a mat there, and he just started calling off moves, and we went back and forth for single legs, double leg, duck unders, and drags and everything. And so we finished, and then John Peters walks over and goes, okay, you got the job. And that's
the other guy was just an actor. Like, he didn't probably have much of a wrestling background.
Actually, Frank Zagarino is a great wrestler.
Okay.
And he was an actor. He was like, he's done some other roles. And if you go DBA or check him out, you'll see that he has done a lot of B movies and things over the course. I'm sorry about that. Let me turn that off.
That's all right.
You don't want to be taking any phone calls there. I'm going to just actually toss that in the other room. All right.
Yeah. So the other guy had some wrestling background. Okay.
He was a solid wrestler. There was no doubt about it. I think it was because I actually was a bodybuilder. And for the last, 3 years, I was at Eastern Washington. And 2 years before that, I was training in the Tri-Cities. I was an iron worker for 4 years. And so I would do night shift, swing shift. And so then I would get up in the morning, go train, do my workout, and then have lunch, and then get ready and go to work. And I did that for 2 years. And then I went to Eastern. And when I was at Eastern Washington, I was in the grind because all I did was get up, eat breakfast, go to class, eat lunch, go to the athletic training room, finish that, go to dinner, go study, go to the gym, train for 2 hours, go home, go to bed, do it again.
Yeah, that sounds like me in college.
Yeah, 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, because really the role of Shute, the physique had to. I mean, you had to have that physique. Like honestly, I think that would probably be even more important than the acting skill or even. I mean, yeah, you got to know wrestling, but you had to have that physique. If it didn't have that physique, it kind of ruins the role.
So I mean, the scenarios, the situation, the words that they give this character totally set him up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see a little skinny dude out there, it's not going to be as intimidating. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy that's there, everybody's like freaked out about, and then you see him and holy crap, this guy is serious. I mean, I went from 215 to 189 in 2.5 weeks, and I had a floating, one of those, submersion tests, and I was at 4% body fat.
Yeah.
I was stripped down and I was in pain, and I was not happy actually filming for like 10 weeks like that.
Yeah. Well, that first scene on the stadium steps, like that, I mean, really just set the tone right there.
Well, I mean, look, it's iconic now. It's the whole thing with the log, the whole thing of walking into that stadium, the sound, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know if you should do this, Loudon. It's not a good idea. So it's totally sets you up to see this guy that everybody's been talking about. So
yeah, 100%. What was you said you were bodybuilding. What was your training and nutrition like around that time?
Well, I'd been working with nutrition for years before that, and a couple of years before I went to Eastern Washington, but I was in pre-med. And so some of our courses were about body chemistry, about nutrition, about body dynamics, kinesiology, and chemistry. And so I was being educated, and I read everything I could. I mean, Arnold wasn't the guy that I would aspired to be back then. He was the man.
Yeah.
Lee Haney was just kind of coming in and starting to dominate. But I mean, what else can you say? I mean, Schwarzenegger was so awe-inspiring, and where he came from and where he got to, and then dominated in the world here in Hollywood and the movies. He became number one, movie at the time, and he went into politics, became the governor. I mean, he just takes that mentality everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he's a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I have what were you gonna say?
Well, that's kind of what I was, doing. That's all I cared about. It was about training, nutrition, learning how to train better and learning how to, I just wanted to get bigger.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, back then, I was just protein and carbs. I was not thinking about vegetables, healthy fats, any of that stuff. I've changed many of my thoughts about that, and I've pretty much destroyed, I think, my whole digestive system during that time because I just blew it out. It was just
I can imagine.
I would start the day with 6 eggs, and 5 pancakes, and I would finish the day with 5 platefuls of food, going from chicken breasts to plates of spaghetti, because all I needed to do was I needed calories in. I just wanted to get big.
Yeah. What did you weigh in high school, when you were wrestling?
Okay, so as a freshman, I was about 112, 115.
Okay.
So I was only I think there was only one other weight class below me, 101 to 99. They kind of jumped back around to them. And then I think it was maybe 105, but then on my weight. And then second year was 130s, 132. And my senior year, I didn't actually wrestle my senior year because I ended up playing tennis, believe it or not. But I was 155.
Yeah.
So I didn't really grow until I got out of high school.
You want to know what's crazy with you saying that? What's crazy is everyone listening is probably they know what I'm going to say because I've talked about it a lot on the podcast. But so I wrestled varsity in 8th grade in New York. They would allow you to, test out to try to join the varsity team. And I weighed 85 pounds, and the minimum just to wrestle at 98, you'd have to weigh 88. So I'd have to drink water before I even got onto the scale. That was my 8th grade year. So then I stayed at 98 for my freshman year, then even my sophomore year in high school. But my sophomore year, I was cutting a ton of weight. I was probably 115, but cutting down to 98. And then, I got up in 135. And then when I graduated high school, I was like 150. So kind of the same track as you. And then I got into lifting a lot more after that, and then put on a little bit of size then.
Well, how tall are you now?
5'4", 5'4.5".
5'4", and
yeah, I'm short.
155, so you were already putting on some muscle at 5'4", 155.
Yeah, I mean, I started lifting seriously right around 8th grade, right around after my 8th grade wrestling year, because everyone's like, hey, you were drinking water to have to make weight. You should jump into the weight room.
Right.
Got in there and then hit the bug, and then pretty much was a nut about it ever since.
Yeah, I loved it. I love bodybuilding. I love stacking. I love leg day, man. Couldn't wait. Get enough weight on that bar where it started to bend a little bit. I just felt that power of being able to squat heavy weights. Yeah.
Nothing better. And now I power lift now. Yeah, it was like, it was funny. Like when I was in high school and even like my first couple of years of college, I was all about bodybuilding. And then really just because I didn't know what powerlifting was, when I thought of powerlifting, I thought of just big fat guys. You know what I mean? I didn't really understand that, it's a weight class sport, kind of like wrestling, and you can be a smaller guy and compete in powerlifting. So then that's kind of was like perfect. I always tell this story too. When I was in high school, if I'd ever like lose a match or something and I'd be all pissed off, I'd be like, oh man, if only there was a sport where we could just test how strong we are for the weight class, I'd be great at that.
So now you did this, or now you're doing this at this time?
I powerlift now. I compete now.
You do it competitively then?
Yep.
At this point?
Yep.
So do you have age groups that you compete in? Or you just...
Yeah, I mean, I compete in, it's like once you get past 23, it's just open, and they have like masters when you get older, but then it's, I compete in open, and then the weight class is 163.
All right.
Yeah. So when going back to when you were in your early 20s here, bodybuilding, what did your training look like? What was like your setup for right around the time before filming Vision Quest?
So at that time, I was 3 on, 3 off. So
okay.
3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off, around the clock, around the year. Stop. You didn't see me at any of the parties or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would split it up. I do chest, shoulder, tris, and then legs, back, and thighs. And then I'll do an abs day and a calf day. And then sometimes I'll split it up and just do leg day. And then I'll do, biceps, triceps, shoulders, and I'll do chest and back on another day. So I would vary it. And I would kind of go to heavyweight. Sometimes I'd do reps. Sometimes I would, try and do, declining sets. And I would try and just do pre-exhaust. You got to find a way to shock the body. You can't just keep doing the same old workouts. One of the things that I found even later on is a thing called slow burn. You've probably heard of this.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do the repetition, but you're going to take 10 seconds.
Yeah, the tempo work.
And it tears. It gets every fiber. You just got to drop your weight down, and then you just do these really focused sets. And you will feel it the next 2-3 days. I don't care who you are.
Oh, yeah.
Slow burn, that just totally jacks it up to another level.
Well, especially because the eccentric part of the lift, so like the lowering of the weight, creates the most muscle damage. So when you accentuate that and make the eccentric even longer, you're just going to create more muscle damage.
Yeah.
You'll get sore 100%.
We used to do it where we just would, pull it up and then they would pull it back down even. But this is when you really have to do all the work both ways. It's dynamic. I mean, that was one thing. And then also, listen, if you guys are, your listeners are into this, they want to raise their HGH levels. One of the key things to do it, if they haven't tapped into this, is intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
They should look at it. They should have this part of their program. You don't have to do it every day. Some guys are doing it 2 days, 3 days a week. I know some people that do it 5 days a week and then take the weekends off. But there's a potential. And intermittent fasting is very simple. You just 14 hours after your last meal at night is when you have your first meal the next day. And you're getting into a state of ketosis after 8 hours of flushing out the glycogen in your system. And then if you train toward the end of that fast, you can get more benefits. But the thought is, and the understanding is, that you can increase your HGH by 1,300% for women and up to 2,000% for men. So
what are the eating windows that you recommend?
Well, in this particular case, then you you don't eat until lunch, and then you got 8 hours where you have to get those 3 meals in. You got to get your calories in.
So like a 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window?
Yeah.
Kind of like what would be considered like the lean gains method, I guess.
I don't know whose method that is, but it's like, it's at the, you just got to do the 14 to 18 hours of fasting and the 8 hours of when you got to get your get your calories in.
You weren't doing that back in Vision Quest days, right?
No, I told you what I was consuming before I got ready for Vision Quest. And when I dropped the 25 pounds, I went from that 5 platefuls of food at dinner time down to no dinner, breakfast and lunch. My lunch was salad with just tuna and a squeeze of lemon. That was it. I ate that lunch. And then after lunch, nothing. And I would go on an exercise bike for 60 minutes and just sweat. And it was just cannibalizing. I was just cannibalizing everything. My shoulders, my delts hurt, and I was just eating all the protein for energy. So
yeah. So that was your.
I'm telling you guys. Okay, so that's not how you should do it.
Yeah, that was like your drastic cut to make it.
I made the commitment. Like, okay, I need to get down to the size of Matthew. So what do I got to do? I got to strip. Big time.
Well, that's what's so ironic is that you were the one cutting and Matthew really wasn't, right? How much did he weigh around the filming?
I have no idea what he weighed, but what he was doing was he was training with weights. He was eating really good food. He had to quit smoking and drinking because he was from New York and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And vitamin supplementation program. They had a special guy that was there just doing that, a trainer, and he was like doing everything he could to bulk up, and I was sucking down. And I had everything in the movie that he goes through, like the lightheadedness. And even during filming one time, I got hit in the nose and my nose started to bleed and we couldn't stop it. So they actually had to cauterize it on set.
Jeez. Did he say you can't hold your mud?
Yeah. I think that he was laughing in the background because he's not, it's like, yeah, roles are flipped, dude.
That's funny. Yeah. That's what I always found ironic. I think I read something one day. It might have been like a interview you did in the past where you talked about how you had to come back and do extra shots, and you had to kind of go through the process again.
So we shot. I dropped that weight for 2.5 weeks, and then we shot for 10 weeks. Then I was done. Mm-hmm. So I thought. And I went back to school, and I was like, okay, back to grinding out, back to bodybuilding, back to getting ready for a competition. And 3 months later, I get a phone call, and I had gotten now up to 217 pounds. I'd made this big comeback.
Yeah.
Powered in. I'm at 217. I get a call like, oh, we got one more scene to do. I'm like, wow, tell the director, I gotta, I'm 217. Oh yeah, no worries. No, tell the director I'm 217. So I called the director because I knew they weren't going to.
Yeah.
And I get on the phone. He goes, oh, well, you got to drop that weight, Frank. And luckily I had more time because they had let me know. So a month later, I had not only hit 189, I couldn't stop. My body kept going down. And, once you start that, sometimes you just can't stop it. You really got to have the timing down. And I was just sucking. And I got down, and none of the clothes I was wearing then fit me. So I was wearing all these baggy clothes. I'd come to LA and shoot the scene, which was the weigh-in scene. So if you look at me in that, you'll say, hey, it looks a little bit flatter and thinner than he did in the rest of the movie.
Yep.
So then I go, finish that. I go back to school. I'm back in school, taking my classes. 3 months later, oh man, I'm at 225 now. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling big. I'm really liking the size, digging it. I get a call like, oh, hey, we got one more scene to do. One more scene. I was like, oh, you cannot be serious. So tell the director I am not going down to 189. I just can't do it. I got a bodybuilding competition in 8 weeks. I'll go down to 200. That's as far as I can suck, 25 pounds. I'll do that. So I drop down to 200. I show up, and the scene that they did that time was the bathroom scene. So I'm wearing a jean jacket, and if you see me walk away, you'll go, yeah, that guy's not 168.
You look huge when you walk away on that scene.
Not that little guy anymore.
That scene, I was like, man, it's either the jean jacket or the dude's way over. Well, I mean, pretty much the entire movie, you realize that you're not 168.
Right.
Which that's part of it. You know, I mean, I think that was like part of you had to be bigger than 168 because that was kind of, you had to be larger than what the guy actually was.
You know, I look back and I think like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I didn't look like I was 168, but Matthew and I look pretty close to the same size. And so that made it believable. Made it like, oh, well, okay, Matthew's a little bit more lanky. He's going to be more on the technical. I'm going to be more the muscle. I'm going to be kind of like, you know, using brute strength to kind of throw my moves. So it worked out as far as the wrestling part and the believability. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it was anybody who wrestles couldn't recognize that because you guys were about the same size. Because if you're a short, stocky guy, the guys in your weight class are most likely going to be taller and lankier. I know I went through that my entire life. Like, you know what I mean? So that's in wrestling circles, that's actually how it is most of the time. Right. Like you'll see a shorter, stocky guy having to go against a taller, lankier guy, and they're in the same weight. And yeah, that's what made it believable. You guys were about the same weight. So yeah, but I think part of it was like, you couldn't have, if you weighed 168, actually weighed 168, yeah, it would still be impressive, but it's even more impressive when you're like 190 and then you say you're 168, you know?
And then you got to also think about the fact that the camera adds 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah, and with angles and lighting, I mean, you can make it even better.
So Stallone, Stallone is on camera, and he's a short guy. He's a small guy.
Yeah.
Gets ripped, and when he gets ripped, then that camera adds the 10 pounds, so he looks huge, you know.
Well, that's like in Rocky, I think it was Rocky 3, where he gets like super shredded for Rocky 3. I think he only weighed like 170 pounds.
Right. He's not big, but
and they're saying he's a heavyweight, you know.
Right.
170. Yeah, he's only like 5'7", I think.
Yeah.
He was shredded though. That's another, those Rocky movies. Those are another ones that really inspired people to get training.
His original character was probably the best. I have to say, because, you know, they get it into these Hollywood kind of types and like, oh, you know, I will break you. But it's, you know, then you kind of go over the top with some of this stuff. But that original one where he's just an shucks kind of guy and, you know, I'm going to give him a shot. I just want to, you know, give him a shot, you know, that attitude and just this, like, get behind him because he's just this guy.
That underdog mentality. It's easy for people to get behind that.
Yeah.
So after Vision Quest, you wanted to try to make a run at acting, right?
So after the third time, I still went back to school. After we shot that third scene, I still went back to school. And I completed I completed 4,000 hours in the athletic training room. I completed my whole degree. It's like a pre-med degree that you're getting prepped to go into physical therapy, so PT school. Mm-hmm. And I just needed to complete the teaching component, the minor. So that was still left there to be done. And when the movie came out, it got some nice response to the people back in New York first. And they called out and said, hey, an agent says, listen, we saw the movie. We like your look. We like what you did. We want to represent you. Will you come to LA and do an interview and maybe, you know, see if we can do something? So, yeah, I came down. I ended up not signing with them, but I signed with an agency that I liked. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what am I going to do? If I don't give this a shot, I'm going to always say, should have given this a shot. I had the opportunity. Like, wow, like just go and see. You can come back and finish your degree, right? Mm-hmm. So I came down, never been in any acting classes. I started going to acting classes, 6 to midnight, 4 nights a week. And I did that for a year. And then I started another class where we're going 5 nights a week from 6 to midnight or to 1 o'clock in the morning. And I got an agent, I got a modeling agent, a commercial agent, a theatrical agent, and I got a job at Universal Studios playing in the Conan movie. Not Conan, by the way. I was playing a double swordsman in the live action show up in Conan, the studio's tour event where they had the live show up there. So I was working. I did some.
We're good.
Yeah, there was just something popped up right over your face there. Said we're upgrading or doing something. I don't know. So I started working up at Universal Studios and going out on calls, and I did another movie and a TV show and a commercial, but I did not take good care of myself. I was doing the typical actors thing, not eating well, drinking too much coffee, and burning the candle at both ends. And so my body finally broke down, and that's when I went back to got to get into the healing arts again. I started going to acupuncture school here in Los Angeles. Took me 5 years, and I started doing personal training on the side just to put myself through school. Mm-hmm. And so for the last 27 plus years, I have had a master's degree in Oriental medicine, and I work with health, fitness, and longevity, and I'm into nutrition. And I'm putting posts out for the wrestlers on just about, nutrition, not to be like, listen, man, we're not at this point where it's a cutting sport. Let's get out of this. This like mentality about cutting weight and then wrestling is completely wrong. Like, if you're going to fight, if you're going to go into battle, do you want to starve yourself and then dehydrate yourself and then go into battle? Doesn't make any sense to me. And this is the prime time when everybody's hormones are hitting, and that's when you need to feed the body. Like, just eat healthy. Take the sugar, take the white foods, white sugar, white flour, dairy, potatoes, deep fried foods, processed foods. Take all that out of your diet. Eat vegetables, salads, clean protein, healthy fats, train hard. Your body will just drop anything it doesn't need. And then you'll just find out, this is where I need to wrestle.
Yeah.
You need to eat into your matches if you're going to have any kind of energy. I don't know how else to do it, man.
Yeah, especially nowadays with you have some things in place to try to eliminate at least the big weight cuts where you get certified at certain weight classes and things like that. So it's, I don't know if you'll ever take weight cutting completely out of the sport, but they're taking steps to try to minimize it a little bit.
I'd like to just, be there to just tell these, just to get these kids like 2 months out, let's just take the sugar out of your diet, period. Just to start there. See where you end up. And then go after, if there's a weight you want to get to, fine. Get there, be there 2 weeks before even, the season starts. Be there centered so that you still can eat into a match and build your energy. So there's a way to do it, but you got to really be smart about this, and I love it when I hear coaches go, I really don't like to promote that on my team. And I always hate it when I'm at a appearance. Mm-hmm. And one of the kids that's 14 said, Vision Quest, I saw it when I was 7. That's why I'm a wrestler. The only thing I've had today is 3 almonds. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yep.
You're in the middle of a tournament. That's what you're going to go on for energy? Forget it.
Yeah. I wish I knew this stuff when I was in high school. Cause I was, like I said, my sophomore year, I cut a bunch of weight, and really, I was eating pretty decent. I knew, I was reading about nutrition and stuff, but what I didn't understand is really it's just about optimizing your body composition really more than anything. Like, if you can set yourself up to where you are relatively lean for the weight class and carry as much lean body mass as possible for the weight class, you really don't have to cut that much weight.
Exactly. And you got to find out what that is. These guys, I look at these high school, some of these kids, they have nothing. You see the little heartbeat pumping in their gut, like, and they're like down the strip down. They're like, but I'm going to make that next weight down. Like, yeah, no, that's not what we want to do.
And the thing is, it doesn't always equate to a better performance. Like, in terms of, it's definitely not going to make a better performance, like for you as yourself, but it doesn't always equate to placing better either. Yeah.
And when you get in, the first thing that goes when you dehydrate is your endurance. And if you don't feed the body, you don't feed the brain, so how are you going to think out there? And when you hit that third period, you're going to get abused. These guys are going to walk all over. You have no third round energy. And then you got to come back and do that in another hour.
Yeah.
Times, over the course of a weekend. Forget it.
Wrestling tournaments are long days.
Yeah. They're brutal.
How,
hope that each time I go out and I mention this one more time, that just a few people hear it and will be interested in thinking about, taking a different tact.
How close do you stay to the wrestling scene?
So the last, I want to say 2.5, 3 years, because Vision Quest had a 30th anniversary 3-4 years ago. I kind of got brought back into the fold. I have a friend that was at Eastern Washington. He was a wrestler. He came to California. He started a wrestling program that was at the very bottom. It's in Santa Ana, just south of here. They were at the bottom of the CIF. And he walked into that school, and it took him years, but he built that program up. So now they're dominating CIF. Completely changed the community. This is what the beautiful thing was. He changed the community and the town and the feeling. It was used to be like, there's nothing but gangs down there. I don't want to send my kid to Santa Ana. He's going to get shot or knifed, you know? And now it's like they have pride. They spent $80 million on the school. So this is where he brought me back in and said, hey, I want you to come give away some medals and trophies at my tournament. So I was okay. And then from there, I started getting calls and I started getting interviews, and 30th anniversary came up, and so there was a resurgence of awareness, and I put a Facebook up so people could find me, which you can go to shuteshirts.com. That's my site that is dedicated to Vision Quest, and I have information about nutrition and training there, as well as shirts and photos if they want those. And I try and keep people up on where I'm going and what events I go to. So we started that. So now it's like, I love being tight, and these guys are brothers. They're tight. They take care of each other. It's a brotherhood. And I just feel like, I've just been reaccepted back in. I'm excited about going out and seeing like the new generation that's getting exposed to Vision Quest. This is going on third generation.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's a classic though. I mean, even kids today, still talk about watching Vision Quest.
So one of the fathers, his son is like 8 years old, and he would only let him see like certain portions of the movie, just the wrestling. Mm-hmm. Now, when he gets ready for a match, he gets out of the shower, looks at himself in the mirror, and he says, "Think you'll make the weight?"
That's awesome.
That's brilliant, right?
There was one thing about the wrestling in the movie. There was a lot of lateral drops.
So, yeah, I helped in this process of choreographing the final scene, and there wasn't that many drops in the final scene other than Matthews.
Yep.
There was an arm out of bounds. I really love the way that looked.
Yeah, that did look good.
He did like he came around and got behind me, and then I did a
switch.
We did a switch and a re-switch. We'll break the arm down, try and climb out of that. Stuff like that. There were some things that I look at and go, I can't believe that we did that. That looks terrible. But you can only do so much.
Yeah, and so here's a story. So about the lateral drop. So the first varsity coach I had. So my 8th grade and 9th grade year on varsity, when we would run out, for home meets, you'd run out and you'd do your warm up in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. We would do lateral drops, Japanese wizards, just like a bunch of throws that, mind you, not anybody on the team ever did in a match. But it was kind of just for show. Like, it looked really cool. So I kind of always I think he got that idea from Vision Quest. Like, because all the throws look awesome, but you don't always, unless you're actually really good at throws, you're probably not going to, like, if you're just an average high school wrestler, you're probably not going to hit a throw because you're going to end up on your back.
Right. Well, and that reminds me of somebody that was telling me about their team that after watching Vision Quest went to a tournament and they were all trying to do lateral drops and they all were getting pounded.
Yep.
Damn, that Vision Quest, these kids think they can do this lateral drop and they're all getting slammed.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what happens. Yeah, very rarely do you see a good lateral drop at the high school level. But Shute was like a 3-time state champion, so he could probably do it.
He could probably pull it off. Know? But anyway, so one of the things I wanted to say to you is that, I don't know what these guys are doing as far as stacking and their vitamins and their nutrition. Mm-hmm. Are they still trying to hit the protein, the amino acids, and doing the branched chain aminos, or what are you guys really hitting hard for trying to get?
Mostly just protein, creatine. Like there hasn't been branched chain amino acids were really popular for like a few years ago, but recently there hasn't been a lot of research to support them with when you're getting adequate protein levels, whether just through your diet or taking protein, whatever. So I don't know. I'm not a huge supplement guy. I'm big on protein just to hit your protein totals for the day. A lot of people struggle for that. A few select vitamins, creatine because it's the most studied sports performance supplement there is. Caffeine. I like caffeine, to get you a little boost. But other than that, I'm not a huge supplement guy.
So have you ever heard of bulletproof coffee?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So if you like your caffeine, you like coffee?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big coffee drinker.
So what I'd like you to do is just Google bulletproof coffee.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Dave Asprey.
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
He does that. And it's really simple to do in the morning or before your workout. Mm-hmm. And so your body has basically two energy pathways. You got your glycogenic and your ketogenic. Your glycogenic is all about carbs and sugars and stuff like that. But your ketogenic is all about learning how to build that pathway to use your fats for energy, which is longer lasting, more efficient, and less byproducts than doing the glycogenic, which is sugar, which will crash, will leave you some extra, free radicals in your system, all of that. Okay. So that's my go-to guy before I go do any kind of physical activity. If I get a chance, I'll do some bulletproof coffee. Mm-hmm. There's a new product that I just started working with called, I don't know if you ever heard of this, called Somaderm.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
It's the first over-the-counter HGH transdermal FDA registered homeopathic microdose gel.
Yeah.
Here it is. I just started doing this about 6 weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, loving the results that I'm getting. I don't know anything that's over the counter that's going to really hit that HGH other than I said intermittent fasting, which you kind of utilize along, with all the rest of the things that you're doing. But this is a new product I just started carrying and I'm starting to use. And it's, I've noticed some very, very nice things because I am, 59 now. Mm-hmm. I'll be in about 4 months. So, I'm hitting that zone where all those hormones that I used to hey, man, my hormones are running. I can just do about anything I want to do and I can recover.
Yeah.
Older, this just doesn't happen. So anybody over 35, this is the clay that you want. It's going to help with all those issues that we struggle with as we age, as well as cholesterol, high blood pressure as well, that it'll impact your sight even. So, I've noticed just muscle density, and now it's retaining a little bit longer. So I'm loving this. So that's one thing that I think that is something to be checked out especially if you're over 35.
What's it called?
It's called Somaderm.
Where can you get it?
If you have questions about it, you have to hit me up or just get on my website or, just any way you can get a hold of me, just reach out there. I have a site called, it's by New with a U and life.com/Osani. OSANI. That's my office name, Osani, OSANI. Okay. So they can go on there or they can Facebook, friend me and I'll give them the information. They can messenger me and we can give them whatever information they want on that.
What's your Facebook page?
Oh, it's just Frank Jasper.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll put the links for that in the show notes. Cool. So everybody can click on it.
Yeah. So it's something that it's and so I also say they recommend certain doses. There's what's called a loading phase. So they want you to take a little bit more in the beginning and want you to kind of do a maintenance phase. But I think that as you're a bodybuilder or you're somebody that's really trying to push the envelope, or you're really trying to maintain a certain level, that you'll probably want to go a little bit more than what they suggest.
Okay, cool. What do you do for training nowadays?
Okay, so I started playing tennis again about 9-10 years ago. So I've been up to playing tennis about almost 5 days a week at some points. I teach a couple of days a week, and now I get out there a couple of days a week. I just started working with a team here in Pacific Palisades. I haven't been on the wrestling mat in almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Started a West Side wrestling team in Pacific Palisades with this guy named Aldo Giuliano. He's the coach. Uh-huh. And found a room. We brought mats in, and we're training 2 days a week. So I'm starting to roll around again on the mats. So now I'm starting to work out again with wrestling. I love it. I can't wait to get back to it each time. And then I'm doing what's called a circuit training with dumbbells and a Swiss ball. And I do that 2 to 3 days a week. And I do 12 to 15 reps. And I just go from one exercise to the next, to the next, to the next, because I want to be physical, but I don't want to carry a ton of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still go out and do a few appearances. I don't want to be like, hey, wow, what happened to you, man?
Yeah.
You looked so good before. Now you're like, what? So
again, in the 80s, dude, you had the physique.
So I don't walk around at 189. I'm about 180 right now, Cool. So trying to keep it real, trying to keep it, close. I'm not trying to, at age 60, I think anything I can do is pretty damn good.
Yeah. Shit, I'm going to have to come out to California and roll around a little bit.
Yeah, man. We'll have to bring you on. Come on out, man.
I'll come out. Come wrestle with Shute a little bit. So one last thing I want to talk to you about. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, but do you think that they'll ever do a remake?
Yeah, this is a $64,000 question at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that if they are, this is the time.
Mm-hmm.
The Karate Kid came out in the reboot. It's like Cobra Kai.
Yeah, on YouTube.
And it got really good reviews. They flipped the story. They made Ralph Macchio become kind of a dick, and the other guy was kind of down on his luck, and so you kind of got behind the other guy. I haven't seen it. I want to watch it. But
I haven't seen it either, but I've heard it's good.
Rotten Tomatoes hit it like at 100%. They reviewed it really high. And so I talked to my neighbor who's a music producer, and he's producing this woman, and he says, 80s music is really big right now. And I'm like, 80s shows, 80s music.
Mm-hmm.
When I go around to these tournaments, this is the other thing. When I go around to these tournaments and I look at all these kids' haircuts, they're like the Shute haircuts. They're just different versions of the Shute haircuts now. Buzzed around. I don't know if you knew that for 17, 18 years, I had a ponytail, and it was about 8 months ago I cut it off.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So now you're seeing like the sort of semi-Shute haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just found it fascinating. Like 35 years ago, this was in the movie. Now these kids are like, I see it all over the wrestling community.
Yeah, well, like we talked about on the phone the other day, they talked about bringing, I don't know whether it was going to be like a remake or just like Vision Quest 2 or whatever with Taylor Lautner a few years ago, and then that fell through. Yeah,
and I know a producer that actually was walking around Hollywood trying to get Vision Quest 2 done, and it just didn't. I don't know if that was during the writer's strike, because that also kind of everything fell. I don't know. Everything kind of fell out. And that was right around the time that people were trying to push that out there. And I think Lautner's past movies after Twilight didn't do as well. And so people just weren't excited about investing in. But he had that in his next series of movies he was going to take on. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm actually talking with some writers right now, asking them to do kind of a treatment and see what we can do, see if I can get some excitement. So I'm just trying to put it out there. I'm hoping that, it happens in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Well, what they should do is like a reboot of it, have you in, and then the movie should be about like your son. Maybe wrestles Loudon's son.
Well, that's all, okay. So last year, I think it was like Wrestlers Only or one of those sites that I'm on as a member. They threw out a thing like, okay, let's do Vision Quest 2. Who's going to write the best story? And so they had a bunch of people put out these different scenarios. And then I read each one and I gave it a critique, and then we chose one. And a lot of them went back to that as a potential, like, oh, well, then Loudon's son wrestles Shute's son, or Shute actually coaches Loudon's son. I mean, there's lots of things you can do with it. So lots of potentials.
Yeah. Well, I want to read for the role of Shute's son.
Absolutely. That's 26. That was the age I was when I played a high school, and you have that young look too.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah, but see, I'll have to get it'll have to be someone smaller though. Like I actually weigh 168, so I couldn't like play off as being a huge 168. It'll have to be like 140.
So one of the thought processes was that Shute's son wasn't quite as big as he was in his time, but then Loudon's son is up a weight class or two, so now it's going to be Shute's son's going to gain weight to wrestle Loudon's son.
See, yeah, I could do that. That would be good.
There you go.
Yeah, I could do that. That actually would be a cool storyline too.
You wouldn't have to starve.
I could just get bigger. And plus, I'm short too, so it would really look like, oh man, I'm like going up a weight, like it'd be like very exaggerated, like going up a weight class.
Yeah.
But then Shute's son wins at the end.
He's got to win.
He's got to win if there's a reboot. Cool, Frank. This has been awesome. Really appreciate you doing this podcast. I know everyone's going to love this one. How you mentioned a little bit, but go back through. How can people get a hold of you?
So I have a Facebook that is Frank Jasper. You can just friend me. You can throw a messenger at me if you want to do just a personal message. I'm also at Osani Holistic Healthcare Facebook as well. And, what do I sell? newulife.com/Osani. There you'll find out about the gel, and you can reach me there too if you have questions. So reach out, man.
What's the other website? Shute Shirts?
Oh yeah, shuteshirts.com. SH. And remember, some people spell it CH, but you got to remember it's SHUTE, shirts.com. So I'm going to be out in Michigan end of next month, doing an appearance. I'm going to go and support a kid whose father's going to donate part of his liver. And so we're going to do a tournament to help raise money to cover his father's costs and recovery. And so I'm excited about going out there. And then at the end of November, I might be out in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for the inauguration of the American Wrestling League. So we'll see if that's going to happen. And at the end of December, there's a chance it looks like I'll be back to the Fargo Dome at the end of December. It's a huge tournament.
That's a big ass tournament.
Oh, I love it. It was so cold last year.
I can imagine.
I mean, not just sort of cold. It got up to -16 on a Saturday when I was there.
Jeez.
That was the high of the day, -16.
Better be bundled up.
Oh, baby. You come. What else are you going to do? You're going to go into wrestle if you're going to live in Fargo.
Yeah, seriously. There can't be much.
Man, I can do a whole lot of outdoor activity.
No, that's too damn cold.
Hey, thanks again for having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. This is awesome, man. I really appreciate it. I think this came out good. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Absolute Strength Podcast. I know I had a ton of fun producing it for you. And before you go, if you could just drop me some feedback, I'd love it. I love reading your feedback. So you can go over to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, write a little review, what you think of the podcast. I absolutely love it. I read every single one. But it's cool if you don't want to do that. I get it. No one wants to really go out of their way to do anything, let alone write a review. But I want to get your feedback. So drop me a line on Instagram at Hunt Fitness, or on Facebook, Kyle Hunt, or on Twitter, or send a pigeon or something. I don't know. I just want to hear your feedback. So if you want to give me some feedback, let me know what you think. Hit me up on Instagram at Hunt Fitness. And before you go, I have one last thing I want to say. I have a program I want you to check out. It's actually called the Absolute Strength Program, and the link is in the show notes. It's a program I designed to help increase my own squat, bench, and deadlift. And I got pretty strong off of it, and I think you're going to like it. It's a great book. Thousands of people have got amazing results from it. It's in the show notes. All right, guys. Until next time, until next episode, peace.